Well, this certainly won't get anybody else sentimental now, won't it? Today what I wanted to do was go over an update in regards to one of the free agents that is still on the market. Of course, y'all are probably familiar with the fact that I pre-record these videos a night in advance, so if this player signs a contract between the time this video is recorded and the time the video is public on YouTube, then I look like a total clown. In fact, you can make the debate that that circumstance doesn't even need to be fulfilled in order to call me a clown. You're free to do whatever you want after all. But in this video, we're going over to a former Calgary Flames Norris winner, a legend amongst the organization, and a guy who recently wrapped up a season in Toronto that was more or less just kind of, meh? It's Mark Giordano, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Giordano is in a really interesting spot because it's already been pretty much revealed that his intention for the upcoming 24-25 season is to play. He doesn't have any intention of settling down, which you could say is surprising because he's 40 years old. 6'1", 203 left-handed guy who had recently come off a contract with the Toronto Maple Leafs. He had 9 points in 46 games played this most recent season. Now, we are about 6 years removed from the time that Mark Giordano exploded to 74 points in 78 games played, winning the Norris in the process, and cementing himself in Calgary Flames history. He was the captain for the team for almost a decade, was the captain of the Seattle Kraken when he was over there, and then he had a 24-point season with the Maple Leafs in 2022-2023. Still fairly productive, maybe not as productive as the 70-point season he had when he won the Norris, but still productive enough to be considered an option, and still okay enough to play in the NHL. Now, this previous season, Mark Giordano wasn't really in the same territory at all. He took a pretty steep decline that a lot of Toronto Maple Leafs fans would be quick to point out upon mentioning Giordano's name. If all this sounds familiar to you, then okay, fear not, there actually was a conversation we had about Giordano on this channel in the past few weeks. That was in a video talking about whether or not the Canucks could be a PTO target for Giordano. But in this article, we're going out there and looking at some other teams, because it turns out that according to Mark Giordano's agent, Rich Winter, the Flames, Oilers, and the Leafs are among teams talking with Mark Giordano this offseason. This article was written on thescore.com, and it will be linked in the description. The opening paragraph talks about how Calgary, Edmonton, Toronto, and Buffalo are among the teams to have spoken with Mark Giordano's camp this offseason, his agent Rich Winter said on Sportsnet's Flames Talk radio podcast. The article then says this, that Giordano, who turns 41 in October, was the oldest player in the NHL last season. The veteran defenseman missed 24 games last campaign after sustaining a broken finger in November and a concussion in March. Giordano wants to play for a few more years, his agent said in June, but he's yet to find a suitor and remains a UFA. The 2019 Norris winner is holding firm until he finds an opportunity that gives him a high probability of being in the Stanley Cup final, his agent said. Now, here's the thing with these four teams and the likelihood of Giordano going to the Stanley Cup finals as a part of them. Buffalo, sorry, you're not reaching the Stanley Cup finals anytime in the next year or two with the Buffalo Sabres. Toronto, I'd say they have a pretty okay chance. If you wanted to look at regular season performance, playoff performance is an entirely other animal, and for some reason the Maple Leafs just have not been able to do much of that. Edmonton is in a different spot too, because they're just coming off of a Stanley Cup final defeat, and Mark Giordano, you could say, could be a nice replacement if you wanted to diversify the minutes between the Cody Ceci replacement in Ty Emberson and whomever else could rotate around the bottom of that lineup. You just lost out on Philip Broberg, why not get a Giordano? And then for the Calgary Flames, I don't want to make it seem like they're impossible to contend for the Cup this upcoming year or two, but you can totally understand why there's a link here, right? Mark Giordano, Flames captain of the past, he was super good with that team, he needs to reach 1,000 games with the Flames, and they're in a spot where, after trading away everybody, and potentially trading away even more guys in Anderson and Weegar, getting a veteran presence like Mark Giordano, for example, totally would make sense. It would be a nice feel-good story for everybody involved. Giordano would go back to the city that he started his NHL career in. He made his debut with the Calgary Flames back in 2005-2006. That's a long freaking time ago. And who knows, if the Calgary Flames do find themselves a way to bounce back somehow, if Andrei Kuzmenko and Jonathan Huberdeau start getting the gears turning, they start warming up the bus together, Nazem Kadri gets in on the action too, some of the younger guys like Coronado, Sharangovich, they start to do their thing, and they're able to get the best out of Dan Vladar and Dustin Wolf, who knows how competitive the Calgary Flames can be in this upcoming year. Having Mark Giordano as a leader in the room, and maybe even a captain once again, would be the cherry on top. This article on The Score then goes out there and talks about some of the different ideas. Oh, the Flames, he was the captain of the Flames. Toronto hasn't officially signed Joni Hakanpää amid uncertainty around his health, while the Oilers traded Cody Ceci and unexpectedly lost Philip Broberg to St. Louis after an offer sheet. The Sabres boast young talent on the back end, which could make Giordano a fit as a mentor. His agent noted Buffalo is worried that Giordano might not be happy playing a minimal role on the ice. Giordano has accumulated 577 points in 1,148 career games with the Flames, Kraken, and Maple Leafs. He's only played 41 total playoff games over 18 years and hasn't advanced past the second round. Now pause. I do kind of question the Buffalo Sabres. It's like, hey, the agent's saying that the Buffalo Sabres might be a little bit worried if Giordano would accept a lesser role to be on that team. Buddy, come on. Like, I get it. You know, Buffalo is talking to the agency. They want to get involved here. There's no way Giordano chooses Buffalo. Really? I mean, yeah, of course, they're going to play Byram, Power, and Dahlin more than Giordano in 2024. That team has such an interesting young decor of talented guys that if Mark Giordano wants to get ice time, just go back to Calgary, buddy. Like, don't go to Buffalo. Buffalo might not be a team that's worth contending in the playoffs over the next year or so, but you're totally not going to get much playing time there. It's just not a team that has the opportunity needed for a guy like Mark Giordano to still play meaningful NHL hockey. I'd say that in order of importance, in terms of where exactly he'll be valued the most, I'd rank it honestly with the two Alberta teams in the front, Calgary and Edmonton. You could say that because Edmonton lost out on Broberg and Ceci, they kind of need an extra guy. And I'm not going to say that Mark Giordano is going to be an immediate, absolute, game-changing 82-game NHL season guy, but he's an option that I think is a lot more easy to believe in than a Troy Stecher at this point in Stecher's career, or any of the other younger defensemen that the Oilers have coming up in the pipeline. Calgary, I think, is the easy slam dunk choice, and then Edmonton's up there, followed up by Toronto, and then Buffalo dead last. But the article even goes out there and says at the end that, hey, Mark Giordano's only played in the playoffs X amount of times. He's only played in the first round, too. He hasn't played ever past that. So if he wants an opportunity to maybe get into the second round, I'd say that the Oilers give him the best shot to do that, followed up by maybe Toronto, and then Calgary, and then, I guess, Buffalo towards the end there. I just really don't see that as a possible fit. But it is also intriguing to me how Mark Giordano has been linked to 3 Canadian teams in the midst of this signing speculation. Obviously, it's the agent going out there and saying it himself on Calgary Sports Talk Radio. So I did find that super interesting. I want to know if you think it's as interesting as I think it is. And if you're a fan of the Oilers, the Maple Leafs, or the Calgary Flames, what are your opinions on your team signing Mark Giordano? Let's just say it's a PTO to start, and then it's a regular, let's say $900,000 contract if he's good enough to make your team and actually stick around. There's reason to believe here that there would be more fuel for some teams versus others, but that's what the comment section is for. Let me know your thoughts, whether or not your team should be the team. If you're a Toronto Maple Leafs fan as well, what are your thoughts on how Mark Giordano played in this most recent season? He did decline points-wise and he did decline usage-wise. Do you think it's appropriate for him to get one more shot at the NHL level? Do you think he's good enough to maintain stability for 82 games? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.